everybody. Well, thank you all for encouraging me and bringing ageism to the forefront of our discussions. Let's just kind of briefly go around the little Brady Bunch thing here and get to know each of you. I'll start with Caroline, because actually Caroline is what kicked off these ageism discussions. As I was just brainstorming with her one day, she opened my eyes up to the Old School Clearinghouse, and that sort of led to us having discussions on ageism. Carolyn, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Steve. First of all, thank you for doing these programs on ageism, because it's really great to spread the word and just increase the awareness. I used to run the one of the villages in Baltimore City, and the thing that we ran up against the most was people saying, I'm not old enough yet for a village, when clearly some of these people could have benefited greatly from a village. And that just, I seem to think that that's a huge obstacle to many of the people who sign on to these discussions, who read pro-aging, no matter what state you're in. And so I thought it would be great for Steve, who has such a huge platform and reaches so many people, to start these kinds of discussions. And through that, I met Kyrie, I met Meg, helping out a little bit with Meg as best I can. And I thank you again for doing this.
Great. And that's a great segue to Meg. So Meg, you've got this great initiative, and I hope I'm saying it right. It's Art Against Ageism, I believe. And that was another great thought-provoking discussion that we had on ageism. You want to tell folks about you and about this this initiative that you're involved in?
Sure. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Caroline. Yeah, it's called Art Against Ageism. It's at the website is in fact artagainstageism.org, and the mission of it really is to identify, amplify, and create artistic endeavors that confront and tackle ageism. And so what that really means in practice is, I'll give you an example. Caroline has been very helpful with this. The idea behind it is to help aging services entities like senior living communities and senior centers to create endeavors or artistic programs, public art, interactive art installations that also help people think about ageism and tackle ageism. So. Great,
excellent. And then I'm going to go next to Kyrie, who's with the Old School initiative, which is which put together the Let's Dismantle Ageism self-paced workshop that we're going to learn how Kate used with her team. But Kyrie, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then give us an overview of what the Old School initiative is all about.
Great, thanks. Yeah, happy to be back here with you, Steve and Caroline. Yes, I'm a co-founder of oldschool.info. I threw it in the chat, which is a clearinghouse of anti-ageism resources that I created with Ashton Applewhite and Ryan Backer, my two collaborators. It started out as a spreadsheet. It was Ashton's idea of, we should have all the resources about ageism all in one place and make sure that they're vetted and good, because that say they're anti-ageist can actually be really ableist, or it gets sticky. So they're all vetted by us, and we put them all in one place. You can, on oldschool.info, they're categorized by resource type. So there's tools, there's books, there's blogs, there's videos. We keep it updated regularly. Folks submit things to us, and we continue to scour the internet. And then increasingly, we really listened to the community that's been developed on our subscriber to our newsletter list, but what they wanted, and we've been doing more and more community events. We do quarterly movement builder convenings, other workshops and things, and we also create resources people were asking for. And one of those was, a lot of people wanted an Ageism 101 workshop. And we have a big open source ethos. Anything we make, we want people to take and run with. And so we created an Ageism 101 workshop called Let's Dismantle Ageism. We give it at different organizations. We host it for groups, but also everything you need to host your own is on Old School. The script, the deck, the worksheet, the video of us doing it. And then we heard though too that sometimes people wanted something in the middle. They didn't want to bring us in, but they didn't want to quite do it on their own. And so we created the three of us who made the workshop just walking through it self-paced in a YouTube video. And we were overjoyed when we saw Kate's comment that they had used it, because that's exactly what we want, is people using the stuff, interacting with it, taking it and making it their own. And we have a couple more in the works because we've heard people really workshop kits. And yeah, I'm right now trying to learn how to write grants and things to hopefully be able to pull in more collaborators to make more resources that, you know, really speak to what people want and need. Thanks so much for having me here today.
You bet. And we're going to come back to you here shortly, because I want Kate to tell us a little bit about what inspired you to use this workshop. Well, first off, tell us a little bit about who you are, Kate, and your practice, and then what inspired you to use this self-paced workshop with your team of aging life care managers and other staff members.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve, for having me here today. So my name is Kate, and I run ElderTree Care Management Services. So we were founded 17 years ago, serving Northern Virginia. And you know, I'm just so happy to be here with this group and to be just talking about ageism today. So I'm a huge fan of Ashton Applewhite, and her favorite quote is, ageism is prejudice against our future selves. And like, that just really stuck with me. Love all her work, and that's where I found Old School Info. And every Wednesday, our team does a training. So we're really big on education, and I found that, and I thought that would be perfect. It was fabulous. It was 30 minutes, and then we had 30 minutes to talk about it. And I really, you know, these are folks I've been working with for quite some time, and I've learned things about people on my team, and we talked about some things that we wouldn't necessarily have talked about. And it was just, you know, really meaningful. And so then, of course, we shared it on, you know, social media, and that's where Steve snagged me and was like, "You got to come do this."
Yeah. So this is great. Okay, so folks, I hope this works out. Like when I saw that Kate used this was exactly what the type of activity that I think we all want to see happen, and is how we're going to spread awareness of ageism and make change. And I have been dying to use this platform where we have the opportunity to chat and share ideas in small groups at our tables. And so the video is 30 minutes long, but Kate and her team sort of picked out some segments that we can use for discussion. So Kyrie, before I try to play this first segment, which should be about 5 or 6 minutes that we can all listen to, Kyrie, you want to give us a little bit of a warm up to this full workshop?
Sure. Yeah, so as I said, it's a Ageism 101. The main idea is that all change starts right in here and in here. And so most of it is really unpacking our own age bias that all of us hold. So we're both looking at where that came from, so influences from the outside world, and then also sort of where it lives in us and where it shows up. And I think, yeah, the clips you all picked, and this, I also want to say, this is my dream come true. When we make stuff, we want people to take it and run with it. So I'm just excited for these clips are coming. And this is this whole brand new thing that's created out of Kate seeing it and Steve, you jumping in your community. So I honestly am just stoked to sit back and watch how it plays out. And I think the clips you picked are perfect and pretty self-explanatory. I'm excited to dive in.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to share this in a moment. And so what we'll do is we'll all watch this one clip. Then we'll have the opportunity at the conclusion of this, we can go back to tables and chat about it with your table, at your table. If you don't have somebody at your table, double click on another table until you find a table where people are chatting. If you don't want to chat with folks, just go to a table and just sit there and don't turn on your mic and camera, okay? But let's do the best that we can here. I'm gonna turn off I'm gonna go to share mode. Oh, also when I bring this clip up, I believe you're gonna be able to, you can maximize it on your screen by clicking the arrows in the upper corner. So let's give it a shot. And okay, I'm going to turn off my mic. Or let's see, I'm going to turn off my, okay, so here we go.
So it's almost a dozen years? No, almost 10 years. Sorry, I can't add, which has nothing to do with my age, by the way. But here I am now with Kyrie and Ryan, and also working with Ashton as I have in the past. So it's an awesome thing to be able to be with you all today and to help you make that change. So when we think about making change, something that is as big as our societal culture, each one of us have to begin by changing ourselves. There's a saying, be the change you want to see. That's what we have to do. But in order to change ourselves, we first must look deeply within, right? We need to be honest with ourselves because self-awareness is the very first step in making any kind of change. So I want you to think, I just want you to think for a moment. Maybe grab a piece of paper and write your answers down and then put them to the side. Would you consider our society, our culture, to be ageist? Now try not to think too long and hard, just your first intuitive gut response. Then right underneath that, do you consider yourself ageist? Okay, so put that down and then just move that to the side, and we're going to do a little bit of a deeper questioning for you. So again, you can write these questions down if you like. So we know that this change begins with each of us. We know we need that awareness. But now I want to pose these questions. So we have a slide here. I want you to think of this number 1. And again, you can write these down. Think of the 5 people that you choose, important word there, to spend the most time with, okay? Not the people you work with, not the people who are your family members, but the people you choose to spend the most time with. Think about the largest age gap with you and one of those people, okay? Write that down. What's the largest age gap? Second question we want you to think about, again, intuitive. What's the last thing that you said or thought you were too old for? Right? Too old for. And what was the last thing you said or thought you were too young for? Okay? Now, if you need to, you can pause this video and then come back, but really we want it to be what comes right to the tip of your tongue, okay? So I want you, once you have those answers, I want you to look at the first 2 questions we had you look at. So now, if having answered those questions, if we asked you, do you think our culture, our society is ageist? Would your answer change?
Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that people could hear that. For the folks on the stage, you could hear that. Okay, good. Whew. Okay, I didn't see the chat blowing up that I can't hear it or what have you, so that's good. Okay, so let's try the next step of this experiment. And panel members who are on the stage with me, feel free to jump in on this. But what I'd like to do is, and I dropped all those questions into chat for you. Let's go back to table view, jump in on a table, and let's say introduce yourself to the people at the table and talk about these reflection questions and talk about, what it means to you. And then maybe before we jump back onto stage, we can have some of you share some of the discussions that were at your table. Does that sound okay to those that are on the stage? And we'll see how it goes. All right, so I'm going to send you back to floor plan. And remember, turn on your mic and camera at the bottom, double click on a table, try to network and connect with other folks. So here we go. And Heather, I think if you just turn on your mic and camera, there you go. Awesome.
Hello?
And Heather, correct me if I'm wrong. You're part of the ElderTree team, correct?
I am, proudly, yes.
Great.
Yes.
Well,
so I think I am one of the lucky ones here. At my table, I have Mary, who is 82 years old, and I have Iona, who is 81 years old, and they're just here because they weren't aware of ageism as well. But the biggest thing that they brought up to me is anytime you ever hear senior, it's normally a positive thing, like a senior ranking in military or, a senior in school. It's always positive, but they feel like as a senior citizen, it's not a positive ranking for them. So I thought that was really interesting. If you look at the rest of the world, senior is looked as a positive and something you look up toward, but unfortunately, senior citizen is not.
That's a great.
So like Mary said, she's bringing back it's a new 82. She walks 10,000 steps a day. Iona's starting to swim again. So these are really inspirational women. They really are.
This is great. Thanks for sharing that,
Yeah.
Heather. And, I was jumping from table to table, and I saw one participant in today's discussion with a bicycle helmet on, and they were participating at one of the tables. I don't know if they were doing it on a bike ride, but I'd love to, if anybody talked to that participant, that would be great. Would anybody else in the audience like to share some of the conversations that they had at their table? Feel free to turn on your mic, or just raise your hand if you're one of the folks that was on the stage with me earlier and you were a part of a conversation that you thought is interesting to share with the group. Just turn on your mic and camera. So there, so if anybody, okay, Susan, oh yeah, I love it. Susan Rannick, always got some great things to say. So Susan, if you want to turn your mic and camera on, you can share some of your perspective. So just turn your mic and there you go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think ageism works both ways. I think that we all have to be mindful. I'm a stickler on the words we use. And the thing about senior is they call that semantic specificity. And we're ruining certain words that we use. And we have to find other terms, other ways to be more explicit. My issue with the words on this, the 5 people that you spend the most time with, that I do or that I would like to, because one of my closest friends was my aunt, and she was 94 years old, and she was always there for everything. And you don't want to say she thought like a young, she was vibrant, period. And we always had a lot in common. And I think there's a lot to be gained from the spectrum.
I love it.
Again, spectrum has multiple meanings.
Well, and actually, Susan, since you brought up words, I'm going to play a brief clip that is later in the video with Ryan Backer on Elder Speak. And I think this is going to be pretty cool. And maybe we could listen to this. And actually, if people can raise their hand, I'll bring them up on stage and their feedback. But I'd be interested in your feedback on this one too. But here, turn your, here, I'm going to mute your video, you there. And then here I go again, folks. I'm going to share. And I hope this goes. So here we go. Okay. Why?
both of these types of language serve to infantilize older people who have lived longer, fuller lives. So we know there's a lot of power behind the words that we use. Let's flesh out our talk about language with an exercise. So I'm going to ask you to consider a few statements, and we're going to ask you to tell us what's ageist about the statement, what's the intent of the statement, and how can it be reworded so that it's not an ageist statement. So I'll invite you to pause the video after each one, and you can take your time figuring it out. So I'm having a senior moment. What's ageist about this statement? What is the intent of the statement? And how can it be reworded so that it's not an ageist?
Okay. So here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So this is further in that video, but how many times have we heard or have we said, you know, I'm having a senior moment? And as Ryan says in the video, what is ageist about this statement? What's the intent of the statement? And how can it be reworded so it's not an ageist statement? Would anybody, you want to give that a crack, Susan? Okay, I'm going to unmute you. Oh, unmute.
It's not turning on. There we go.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, senior moment. First of all, we're talking about a memory loss. So we're implying that that memory loss is automatically associated with age. And if anybody has ever had a senior in high school or a teenager, you know that they don't even listen long enough to forget. So we're automatically fulfilling the self-fulfilling prophecy, painting ourselves into a corner. It's self-deprecating. Okay, it has a negative connotation because you're implying that you're unable to do something. And I have a very special term that is trademarked, and you may use it. When I'm working with clients and with patients, I never ever say, I make them vow not to say senior moment. And this is what you say. You say, I'm having an MRD, Mike Robert Delta, MRD. That stands for a momentary retrieval delay. Try that out on everybody in this world of technology. So it's all in the rephrasing. And the other thing you can say is just give me a moment, because you're reserving the right to respond when you can. And it's about the power thing. And you can say, how soon do you need that? It will come to me. But, you know, it's like, are you as smart as a third grader, or can you remember as well as a 20-year-old? No, because you have a whole lot more information. You're not losing it. You just have a whole lot more. I'll get off my soapbox.
I love it. Okay, this is great. So, okay. Well, if anybody has would like to share, raise your hand. Let's see. We got Edwin Smith. Okay. And I'm bringing Edwin Smith to the stage. And then what I'd like to do is hey, Edwin, any thoughts that you'd like to share on?
Well, I can't improve rewording that Susan provided, but my issue with senior moment is that we never say, when someone says has an ill-conceived comment, that person's having a junior moment. so that's just my pet peeve, that, you know, we don't have the opposite in use, you know, that someone's having a junior moment. That was my only.
I love it. I really do. I mean, these are creative solutions that can minimize ageist language. And let's see. I think we've got Mary, who is been prompted to come up on stage. Mary, did you have something that you wanted to share on this topic?
Two things. Again, senior moment is negative. I heard a young person say, I'm having a brain cramp.
Again, there's
nothing to do with age.
Yep.
The other thing is, there's apparently on an internet a long thing about this, but my hard drive is full. It takes me longer to find the info.
I love it, Mary. Thanks a lot. All right, Susan, you got another comment?
Yes, with reference to that, we don't infantilize younger people. Yeah, we do. If somebody's not behaving, we refer to them as being juvenile or childish. We just go to the extreme end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, ageist language is not just reserved for people that are allowed to join AARP. So this is.
We just remember that words are all about how you make somebody else feel. And I think instead of being super hyper about being politically correct, which is going to paralyze us all, it's important just to stop and think for a moment. How is that going to play in Peoria? How is it going to make that person feel?
I love it. Great. Okay. I am now gonna, I'd love to bring Kyrie, Meg, and Carolyn, and Kate back to the stage. And then what we can do is we'll watch one last clip, and then we'll just leave this open to just network and talk. You got 30 minutes. You can just hang out if you like. But Kyrie, how do you feel that things went with your sort of repurposing your workshop here?
I love it. Like I said, I'm all about it. Take it, run with it. I do feel like I want to add on. I just was giving this workshop to a group of therapists 2 weeks ago, and one of them brought up the point around this exact moment we were just talking about in the workshop, the senior moment part, that I think is worth naming. And I really like, she kind of got me on my heels. She said, there are actual brain change differences from when we're younger to when we're older. If any of you have seen Dr. Bill Thomas's Changing Aging Tour, he talks about GIST, and there's research into, when we're younger, our brains are better at computing math quickly, and absolutely the files get fuller. And as we get older, we get better at seeing the story behind the story, the gist, pattern recognition. Our brains do function differently. And so she sort of brought up that she would like to see people reclaim the same way we have, with words and other isms, reclaim senior moment as something. And I said, I don't think we're there yet, but I hear you and I'm with you. I want to. So I just wanted to sort of put that out there, because she kind of put me on my heels too, of like, but our brains are different. And why don't we celebrate the fact that our brains are different at any age? Why don't we celebrate the fact that we can do math problems faster when we're younger, and celebrate the fact that we can see the story behind the story as we're older, and own who we are, where we are. So I just wanted to sort of add that, because that was awesome. I would love to see like a reclaiming of senior moment at some point. We'll know the movement is going well if that happens. But this is great. I love all the discussion. So happy to be here.
I love it. Thanks for putting this together. And I think I want to get some comments from the rest of our panel, but then what we'll close out with is another video that sort of gives you inspiration to think about what are the next steps. And one of the reasons that we wanted to do this is, like, Kate and her team sort of use this as a team building exercise. And there's great resources there at Old School, or you could use this with your team as a team building exercise. But Kate, Carolyn, or Meg, any sort of closing thoughts before I play this remaining video?
So I just want to say I do plan to use the workshop myself. Caroline and I hopefully will do it when we present to an aging senior living community next month. So we want to use it as part of a larger workshop where we strategize on what sort of program they're going to come up with regard to artistic activism. So
I love it.
And I honestly think this should be required at any company that has an HR department, and not just limited to the senior services world. Because when my husband is a programmer, and when you hear about Silicon Valley and how the ageism there is just, especially for women, terrific. So I think this training, Curious training, Old School's training, should be for everyone.
Yeah.
I agree. And so, I mean, we, in our field, we're pretty progressive, and probably everybody who's in this audience just tuning into this, you're of the minority, but we're all married to people that might not work in this field. And so this is great conversation tonight at the dinner table about, hey, has your company ever done anything on ageist language? Because when I visit my friends at their offices, you hear it left and right, and it's just it's all by accident, but it's because people haven't become aware of this. And Kate, this is great. We can land on you, and then I'll play this video, and we can go back to the floor. But any final thoughts?
I just think that this talking about ageism like this just makes my day, and the diversity that we have right here in the tables and my conversations that I had. I mean, this was wonderful, and just thank you all for being here.
And this is Mark says, not a question, but I use the term younger person or older person as those terms are factual and not relative. Very good. I remember, and again, this is related. This is related to Mark's question. I was at a Cub Scout meeting when my kid was very young, and I said, go over there and stand next to that black kid, because that's how I talked. Okay. My kid looked at me and said, Dad, that's racist. And I was like, what do you mean? It's a black kid. He goes, what do I say? He goes, he's a kid with a red shirt. And I was sort of like, oh, it was, my eyes were open, and it's factual. So anyways, I'm babbling. Okay. So go ahead. Yeah, Meg.
I'm sorry. Something occurs to me every time I use the word senior living, because I know it's a term of art in our field, but every time I use it, I think of the term senior and living, obviously. And to me, that's in many ways is ageist, or has it been reclaimed? I don't know. So I think that's something to talk about. And the same with, I prefer to use aging services, but then maybe that also is ageist too. I think it's something to think about. And so
these are great
environment. I like
great
that too.
Thoughts to ponder and progress. Okay, let me play this last video, which is going to sort of inspire us to just get out there and spread the word, and then you can hang out and network at the tables for, I believe, the next 30 minutes if you like. Okay, so here we go. Share and start.
Seeing our aging selves and others through a pretty unkind eye. And we've looked at how it's been compounded through institutional ageism, such as language that we use. So where do we go from here? Are we just here to tell you about how much ageism sucks and then stop? No, we're here to dismantle ageism. So this is where that worksheet's going to come in. You're going to have your commitment forms on it. At the beginning of this, Ashton invited us to join her movement to end ageism. In order to do that, we have to actually take action, because action changes things. Good news, you're already taking action by hanging out with us here today. So 1 point for you there, but it's going to take more than that. So we're going to think about what kind of actions you might want to take. We're going to think about what sort of things you could start doing, stop doing, and keep doing. If you need inspiration, check out oldschool.info. There's tons of resources about ageism there and information, and you could totally come up with something you could for your start doing. There's lots of start doings. You could start reading resources on Old School, but we're just going to take a minute to brainstorm. So grab some scratch paper, and I want you to, after I give you the prompt, pause the video and just take 1 minute to brainstorm all of the things you could possibly start doing to help undo your own ageism and ageism in the world. So go ahead, pause the video, think of everything you can that you could start doing.
Okay, and I'm gonna pause it right there, and that is a great segue for us to go back to the floor, talk about ageism, think about what you can do, network with other folks. Kate, once again, thanks for inspiring a discussion, and I hope you enjoyed this. And folks, just email me if you got ideas and thoughts on the way that this was organized. I would like to continue using this platform, so if you've got other ideas on how we might use it, that would be great. And we'll go back to the floor here.